The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on the pristine streets of Willow Creek Estates, where manicured lawns and white picket fences hid the simmering tensions beneath. I stood outside my house, gripping the fence post as my heart pounded like a drum. Across the street, HOA Karen's sharp gaze was locked on me. Her lips curled in that smug, self-righteous smirk only she could pull off. She was the neighborhood tyrant, and today she was angrier than ever. "I want that $20,000, or cuff her myself," Karen hissed through gritted teeth, glaring at my wife, who stood beside me, calm but fierce. The neighborhood had never seen anything like this before. Karen wasn't just demanding an outrageous sum. She was threatening to have my wife arrested if we didn't pay up. The reason? A dispute over some trivial HOA rule that Karen had twisted into a personal vendetta. But here's the kicker. What Karen didn't know was that my wife wasn't just any ordinary resident. She was the new chief of police for the county. A woman with authority, respect, and a sharp mind that made her more than a match for Karen's bullying. Karen's voice cracked like a whip. "I'm serious. No 20 grand and I'll have her handcuffed for contempt. This is my turf." My wife, Lisa, didn't flinch. Instead, she folded her arms, her eyes cold but controlled. "Karen, you're bluffing. You don't want to make this messier than it already is." But Karen's bravado was backed by her clique of HOA board members, who whispered behind her like vultures circling a carcass. The neighbors gathered, curious and anxious, sensing a storm brewing that could tear their quiet community apart. The confrontation had escalated so quickly, it was hard to keep up. It started with a simple complaint about our backyard. Decorations, nothing illegal, just not in compliance with HOA bylaws. But Karen weaponized every rule in the book, painting us as outlaws, demanding fines, penalties, and now a bribe disguised as a settlement. I glanced at Lisa, who stood tall, unwavering. She had already started dialing her department, alerting them discreetly. She knew Karen's threats weren't empty, but Karen had no idea who she was really messing with. Suddenly, Karen's phone buzzed. Her face paled as she read the message. I caught a glimpse. It was from the police chief herself, confirming her identity and warning Karen about the legal consequences of false arrest threats. The crowd shifted uneasily. Karen's confident mask cracked, revealing fear. But she wasn't ready to back down. Not yet. "Keep dreaming," Karen spat. "This isn't over. You'll pay, one way or another." The tension was electric. This wasn't just about HOA rules anymore. It was about power, justice, and what happens when a neighborhood Karen meets a police chief wife. The tension that gripped Willow Creek Estates didn't dissipate after Karen's veiled threat. Instead, it morphed into a charged silence, neighbors whispering behind closed doors, casting nervous glances our way. Karen, once the queen of the HOA, now appeared rattled, her usual sharp tongue clipped by the sudden realization that she was outmatched. Inside the house, Lisa and I sat at the kitchen table, the soft hum of the ceiling fan barely masking the whirlwind of thoughts swirling between us. She reviewed the legal papers she had pulled up, quietly explaining how Karen's threats crossed the line into harassment and abuse of HOA power. "I'm going to handle this," Lisa said firmly, her voice calm but resolute. "They don't get to intimidate us or break the law just because they think they're above it." The next morning, Karen's phone was ringing non-stop. Calls from the police department, legal notices, and warnings from the HOA's own attorneys flooded in. Word had spread that Karen's demand for $20,000 and her threat to cuff Lisa without cause was not only illegal but could lead to serious consequences for her. At the HOA meeting that evening, the atmosphere was thick with unease. Karen arrived late, her confident stride replaced by nervous glances. She tried to rally her usual crowd, but it was clear the tide had turned. Lisa was invited to speak, not as a target, but as a leader. "I'm here not just as a resident or a police chief," Lisa began, her voice steady and commanding. "I'm here to remind everyone that no one is above the law. Threats and intimidation have no place in this community. Karen's face flushed red, her smirk replaced by tight lips. She stammered, trying to defend her actions, but the room was no longer on her side. Evidence of her misconduct had been compiled, and the HOA board was forced to reconsider their stance. Over the next few days, the HOA issued a formal apology to Lisa and me, retracting all fines and nullifying the demands. Karen was removed from her position on the board, pending an investigation into her conduct. The neighborhood began to heal, but the message was clear. Abuse of power would not be tolerated. Lisa's quiet strength had turned the tables, and justice had prevailed. As for Karen, she learned the hard way that threatening to cuff a police chief's wife wasn't just reckless. It was a direct challenge to authority she could never hope to overcome. We returned to our peaceful life, the fence lines intact and the neighborhood calm once more. But the story of that $20,000 ultimatum and Karen's foolish threat spread far beyond Willow Creek, a cautionary tale of how courage and justice can turn even the most intimidating threats into nothing but empty words. The balance of power had shifted, and this time it was on our side. If you loved this jaw-dropping story of how standing up to HOA, Karen turned into a showdown with the police chief herself, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't miss out on more real life drama and unbelievable neighborhood battles. We've got plenty more coming your way. Like this video if you believe no one should be able to bully their way around the law, and drop a comment below telling us what you would do if you were in this situation. We love hearing your thoughts.